Good morning, this is Alan Crossan from Pathways Integrative Health at 140 Dowling Street. This is the beginning of our new vlog series showcasing all of our practitioners and teachers here at Pathways Integrative Health. Today we have Wendell Peacock, what a fantastic name, here to talk about her yoga classes and to give us a little background. So hi Wendell, how are you?
I'm good, Alan. How are you?
I'm good. I'd like you to just maybe get a little background. You can tell us a bit about yourself. How'd you end up in Dungog?
I ended up here because my brother's been living here for 25 years, but I was living in Singleton for many years of that time, so I was coming across for family things and things like that. But I also lived at Vasey for 12 months. So I've got quite a link with
To the region.
to the region, and yes, and it's I'm finding it's a really lovely town and a lovely community.
How'd you get into yoga then? How's your...
Well, I've always been interested in sort of health things, and I've done bits with sort of yoga and Tai Chi and Aikido martial arts and Qigong and things. And when I lived in England for many years, but when I came back to Australia, there was a yoga class just down from the road from me, and it happened to be a Drew yoga class. And I went to the class, and it was, my body just went, this is home. This is for me. And a few months later, the Drew Yoga International School started one of their first teacher trainings in Australia.
Whereabouts was that?
That was down near Sydney. There's the school, the Drew Yoga Australasia is actually based in Canberra, but they were teaching sort of either in Sydney based, or I ended up doing quite a lot of my training in Canberra as well.
Okay.
And it was a very it was a long training. It was over 4 years, my initial teacher training. So we did 2 5-day modules a year for 4 years.
Okay.
And that gave us time to practice poses, and we had to sort of write up our experiences and do assignments as well in that break. So it was a pretty intensive
4-year teacher
training,
yeah, that's a long time. And what are sort of the features of Drew yoga? Is it like a lot of postures or?
Well, there are all of the traditional postures, but some of the differences are there's a lot of recognition of the value of energetic flow and things. So one of the core things about Drew yoga is that you never lock a joint. So you never stand in a pose with your arms out like this or your legs locked. There's always a lock so that energy can flow. And another thing is that it is actually a sort of a trauma-informed style. A lot of the original teachers have worked taking the yoga in war zones and things over in Europe, and worked with communities that have been really severely traumatized, and so that they've used these energetic techniques to sort of help people cope with trauma. So that really informs the way that we work. We work with a class of people, is a class of individuals who are going through whatever they're going through at the time. And so I come into I might know the people that I've got coming in a class, and I might have designed a plan for how we're going to proceed on the day, but based around whatever their capacities are. But if I come in and people are a bit flat, or they're very hyper, or some things are going on, then I'll structure the class according to how, what's going on for everybody.
It's a bit like remedial yoga in some way.
Yes.
You can kind of tailor it to your individual.
And we learned, when we were learning how to teach, we learn basic models, that we learn stages of each pose. So we can always teach a stage that anybody can do. So say a pose like the tree, which ends up with people standing on one leg and balancing for quite a while. We start off with both feet on the ground, but we then get the whole body and engage the muscles in the way that they would be engaged in if they were standing on one leg, but they've actually got that balance point of having that's the other foot on the ground, and then gradually get people to the point where, okay, they're feeling they've trained their core muscles strong enough so they can hold themselves up, and then they can hold themselves up in the pose. So pretty much every pose we do, there is a version that someone can do, and whether it could be, okay, you can do, instead of getting down on the floor, to do a cat or a dog pose. You can get similar effects by having your hands out on a bench and stretching your back out flat from a bench. So it
sort of solves that problem of sort of needing to get up and down off the floor all the time, and some of the things that challenge people who maybe have impaired mobility and can't think yoga might be out of their reach, so to speak.
Yeah. It definitely is a style that's within the reach of pretty much everyone, and even like because I've been limited in my mobility over the last few years with arthritis in my hips and my knees and my spine. I actually do yoga in bed. So I do some of the poses, before I get in, or before I get out to bed. And then there's other things that I can do sitting, or I can stand for a little bit and then sit down and modify it. So
so you've been on a big journey with your own. You've recently had
a hip replacement.
And that's very amazing to see how quickly you've recovered from that. But also, it's that you're speaking from knowledge that you've garnered from your own life experiences. Very much comes across when you're talking about it, when you're teaching. You can see in your classes that you've lived the experience of impaired mobility, but still keeping your practice up, still keeping up the
and even to the fact that I carry a lot of extra weight on my body, and I always have, even the whole 25 years that I've been doing yoga, and it's just like that's the way my body is.
Yoga suffers from a bit of that body beautiful syndrome where you're supposed to be wearing leotards. And it's never been my, coming from a Tai Chi, Qigong background, martial art background, it's being able to stay in loose, comfortable clothing to train in and things like that. And it's open, the door's open for anyone.
Yes, and that's what my approach is too. And that's why I think I sort of fit so well in here, because of coming from that sort of perspective. And I guess too, one of the things that I've noticed in my classes is that even when people come in and these could be quite young people, like I'm thinking of a couple of women who are now probably in their 40s who started in my classes about 15 years ago, and never having done anything like that. And even though they were younger or whatever, one of them was quite sort of largely built, but there was no way if she did a forward bend that she could get her hands to the floor. But you can see over a few weeks, even just coming once a week, the changes and getting gradually to the floor. And she got to the point where she could do poses that involved sort of a forward bend and hands to the floor. She went off and had her first yoga baby. Both of them have actually had 2 yoga babies with me. And coming back from the birth of her baby, she was more flexible than she had been when she first started with me. So you can really see those sorts of changes with people. And so that's another thing that I've done postgraduate training in prenatal yoga, so I know things that you need to be aware of with physically and the other changes that go on. And so I include pregnant women in my classes from the time that they can do yoga, because it's not recommended that they do yoga before 3 months. And so we just modify the class to fit around the sorts of things that they can do, or give them variations of of poses so that they are appropriate for them, and then the rest of the class can do other things as well. So.
Sounds like you've got a lot of qualifications there, though. What's your sort of qualifications?
Well, I've got the diploma, a 350-hour diploma in teacher training, and then I've also done a 200 odd hour or more training in yoga therapy, and then plus I've done additional postgraduate trainings in prenatal training, in subtle energy work with yoga, in yoga and sound. So always looking for, ways of expanding my knowledge. Plus I've bought about 60 million books. So
yes, me and Wendell share a big love of books, yes, and great TV shows and music. Yes. Wendell has a fantastic music background as well, so
yes.
it all fits in together. Mm.
And I actually finish the relaxation that I guide people through in a yoga class. So with the Drew yoga class, we start off, it has a little bit of a different structure to a lot of other classes. So we start off with a bit of physical warm-up and just getting rid of the day, as well as sort of getting our bodies a bit more ready to do some physical work. We then do one of the other things which is different about Drew yoga, which is we have a lot of flowing sequences that they're actually called energy block release sequences. So they're aimed at releasing energy flows. Then we do some asanas or poses. Then we do some breathing practice. And then we have a relaxation at the end. Mm-hmm. And I bring people back from the relaxation by singing one of the chants in Sanskrit, which is my students all really like it.
It sounds like it's a very well-rounded sort of yoga, not purely focused on stretching and asanas, but helping get people more peaceful and feeling a little bit more calm inside themselves. And that can be a big key with chronic pain management and those things, learning relaxation as well. And how to look inwards and to...
Yes. Well, I've used quite a lot, particularly like yoga breathing practices have been one of the steps that I've used in my way of dealing with pain too. And so that's one of the things that I include in my the separate sessions that I'm doing on pain relief management.
Okay, brilliant. And then the yoga therapy, is that a sort of separate thing, or is that entwined?
Well, it's different. I mean, as we study to be teachers, I mean, we do a lot of anatomy and physiology, and we learn, which poses are good for which parts of the body and things like that. Yoga therapy is about mainly working with an individual on a specific issue that they might have. So it could be, back pain, it could be, joint pain, or it could be diabetes. There are actually yoga poses that are beneficial for diabetes.
So can people book in one-on-one with you for that sort of thing?
Yeah. And in that case, I would I'd have a chat with them first, like a half-hour chat over the phone that would be free. And then I'd send them quite a detailed questionnaire that's asking for their medical history and their life history too, a bit, just in terms of getting an idea of what, how they're eating, how much they're working, how much they're drinking tea and coffee and things like that. And then we have an initial assessment session, which probably goes for around about an hour, where I might do a physical assessment of what their body is looking like, whether they're, one side's up and one side, whether they can actually do certain moves. And actually quite a few of the people that I've worked with, even just after that initial session of talking with someone, I think it's partly looking at their life in such detail, because I certainly haven't, at the end of the suggested, oh, you're working too hard, you need to change your job, or that job's really bad for you. But literally people have, on looking at themselves a bit from outside, have realised, actually, working 2 jobs isn't good for me, and quit a job. And another person said, oh, working in a job where I'm pushing beds with patients in it up and down the hospital, and getting home and being in such pain with my back that I have to sit still for an hour is not good for me. She quit her job. So it just helps people, I think, just have that reflection.
Well, I guess that's sort of the idea here at Pathways is a lot. It's the lifestyle changes, not necessarily quitting jobs or anything, but taking a bit of a look at one's life to create better balance in totality. And that's where having yoga therapy or having chiropractic or psychology, or maybe embracing other aspects that involve the healing journey, as opposed to just waiting for an allopathic approach to look at just your symptoms and then to try and quell them. But if you can take power over your own life and then make the lifestyle changes that lead you towards health and happiness and generally a better balance, I think that's really forward with the ideals we have here and the way we all try to work somewhat.
And then a yoga therapy program, that once I design a program that's specific for that person, and again it's starting out at the very basic sort of steps, and so it will have elements of some movement, it may only have part of a warm-up exercise, or it may have part of an asana, or a very modified part of an asana, and then some relaxation and a specific energetic sequence that Drew uses, which is a healing sequence, and then I work out with the person how they might be able to fit that into their lives. So I don't say, okay, you've got to go and do half an hour of this program every day, and then come back to me and see how we go. I sort of say, well, okay, let's start off with, if we break it down, can you do, so these couple of warm-up moves, can you do them once you get out of bed or something? This particular exercise, can you do it while you're waiting for the kettle to boil?
Sort of manageable bites.
And then people go away, and hopefully, the commitment they need to make is to do it, because obviously no change is going to happen if you don't do the things. So then the idea is that we have sort of 5 or 6 sessions or something where they come back and sort of say how they went, anything they found difficult, anything they couldn't really remember. We look at, okay, so can you progress to the next stage of something, and it's so it's not, but it's mostly talking in a way. It's not like a yoga class where you actually, once you've learned what it is, the physical things to do, you come back, and then we might progress a bit, but it depends very much on how you've gone. So I'm not going to ask you to sort of do, if lesson plan for stage 3 is that you must be to do this. If the person isn't ready for that, then we don't do it. We stay at that point until they're ready for it. And then I can do small groups with yoga therapy. So if there are a few people with, like I've worked with a group of older people who all wanted to work on their balance and their coordination. And so I sort of, I did individual assessments of all, and then worked out a program that would be suitable for all of them, and then we worked for that. But again, each follow-up session wasn't like a yoga class. Okay. It was still a discussion of, well, how did you go doing this element of it, and have you got any questions, and this is the progression from there. So it is quite different to a yoga class. It uses the actual yoga, like Drew, for me, Drew yoga practices and techniques, but it's very much focused around, it's more of a microscopic look, I suppose. It's not popping people in a room and then just running them through a whole range of things. It's keeping it simple, because one thing we want to do as well is to assess what is actually working. So if I was to devise a program that had three separate poses in it or something, and they come back and they're saying, "Oh, I'm feeling really good," we don't actually know which one of those may have been the one that or two that really helped. So we tend to add things just in
incremental
increments.
doses.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, if people have got a lot of options with you, then they can really change their lifestyle. They can change their life. They can take on a whole program of therapy to come towards better health and happiness and get rid of some pain. I might just